make a small introduction. Всем привет, ребят. Меня зовут Нуржан. Я в этом году закончил 𝘾𝙗𝙤 города Алматы и в этом году поступил в университет Торонто по стипендиальной программе Лестера Би Пирсона. Вместе со мной этот выпуск, допустим, этот ивент будет вести мой очень близкий друг Азат.
Очень приятно. Все, ты мне передаешь слово?
Да.
Так, меня зовут Азат. Я в этом году закончил 60-ю гимназию в Алмате, Казахстан. Точнее, не в этом году, закончил в прошлом году, брал 𝘾𝙗𝙂. В этом году поступил в Америку. Университет называется Noman School of Visual Effects and Animation. То есть мой мейджор — компьютерная графика. Вот. Сегодня наш гость Гус. Гус, can you introduce yourself?
Здравствуйте, очень приятно. Меня зовут Газ, мне 19 лет. Я студент Корнельского университета и играю в гольф. Я забил весь свой русский, so I will be talking in English the whole time.
Yeah, no problem.
So, and just before we start and jump into our questions, I want to tell what is the purpose of our project. Итак, ребят, в целом наш проект, на самом деле, он не коммерческий, он благотворительный в какой-то мере и бесплатный. И, ребят, на самом деле мы его создали для того, чтобы решить одну из проблем, которая есть на данный момент в казахстанском школьном образовании, это отсутствие профориентации. И с помощью данного проекта мы будем приглашать различных ребят из разных стран, из разных университетов, чтобы они делились той или иной информацией, которой нет у простых профориентаторов в обычных школах или же которые не обладают сами школьники. И в целях просто развития данной сферы и увеличения информационного пространства казахстанских школьников мы решили запустить проект, который был бы в формате интервью со студентами из различных топовых вузов, которые бы рассказали бы о своей истории поступления, о том, как они, в принципе, живут и учатся на территории своего университета и какая у них студенческая жизнь, чтобы все больше и больше ребят могли понимать, в какой вуз они идут, допустим, условно учиться, и как, допустим, выбирать тот или иной вуз.
Так, вообще, извиняюсь, продолжай.
Да, то есть, и в целом мы просто хотели как-то помочь нашим ребятам в вопросе профориентации. Помимо этого, сам формат наших интервью, он будет не таким уж и серьезным, то есть там будут также и вопросы шуточного характера, чтобы вам было интереснее слушать и смотреть и слушать нас на протяжении всего интервью.
Формат сегодняшней встречи будет такой, что вначале у нас будет блиц-опрос быстро, чтобы вы, ребята, ближе познакомились с Гусом. Далее будут вопросы от нас с Нуржаном, которые мы специально составляли под сегодняшнего гостя. И в конце будет Q&A session. Вопросы вы можете по ходу самой дискуссии писать в чат. Мы будем смотреть, отбирать. И либо в конце, когда сам, собственно, Q&A session начнется, по ходу можете задавать вопросы. Все, можем начинать. Гус? Are you doing?
Guys, are you ready to start our interview?
Yep. Let's get started.
Okay, great.
So, what are we starting from?
Let's start with our place questions that we prepared for you. So, what is your favorite city?
My favorite city that I've been to is Reykjavik, which is in Iceland. It's just right above Europe, between the US and Europe. I really liked it because there's a lot of volcanoes in the area, and basically the whole ground is lava that is cooled recently. It just looks really cool, and we went at a time of the year when there weren't a lot of tourists. I'm definitely looking forward to going back there.
Great. So you're studying Russian and French. So Russian or French?
Uh, I gotta go with Russian, honestly. I took French all of high school. My mom grew up in France for part of her childhood, but I've forgotten a lot of my French, so I'm definitely about to pass French with my Russian. But yeah, gotta keep studying.
Okay, so and the next question, what is your favorite movie, book, and food?
All right, my favorite movie, and please don't kill me, is Borat: Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. And my justification for that, before you hate me, is that for those of you who haven't seen it, I know it seems like it just is a bad look for Kazakhstan, but really the irony of it is that this crazy guy, the lead character, goes to the US and he acts like an idiot, but then it turns out the Americans are the ones that act like idiots even more. It is, yeah, it was filmed in Romania, but yeah, I mean, it's the only movie I've ever watched where I've been on the floor laughing, crying because of the ridiculous things he pulls in public.
Oh,
And
wait a minute.
Okay,
Continue.
we're going further.
yeah, and
Last
so
time, sorry, continue.
yeah, so one of my best friends is from Kazakhstan, 𝘽𝙼𝙂𝙤𝙛𝙚, and he had been told growing up that Borat was like a terrible movie, like you'd never watch it, it's bad for Kazakhstan. And he got to college and I forced him to watch it, and it's his favorite movie now too. So if you get a chance, definitely check it out. And then let's see, my favorite book, I actually haven't finished it, but it's already my favorite, is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. It's about dinosaurs. It's pretty cool. And then for favorite food, I got to go with pizza.
Okay, interesting. We're going further. Last time you were in fight.
Okay, so if you guys know what a girl up in one, and we thought it would be a good idea to fight each other, except neither of us are very good at fighting, so we don't really know who won, but I like to think I won.
Okay, so and the next question is about universities. If you had a chance, which university would you choose? Harvard, MIT, or Cornell?
I gotta go with Cornell. I mean, the biggest reason is because our sports teams are better. That's like most important. And then other than that, I just don't like the area that Harvard and MIT are in personally, if I'm gonna have a serious answer for that. And I'm super happy at Cornell. It's a big school. It's a very diverse school. So I'm definitely happy that I ended up here.
Okay. So you're playing golf. So what's your favorite golf player?
Definitely Tiger Woods. No question about it.
Okay.
So we all already know that you are playing golf for your college, and we already know that you are also have some level of proficiency in Russian. So, как дела?
Все нормально. Я сейчас на карантине, потому что я не хочу коронавирус. Я ничего не могу сделать, но я доволен.
Okay, that's great. Then, blondies or brunettes?
Я забыла.
I gotta go with blondes on this one.
Okay. Next. Sorry.
Okay, so let me go again with the rules. Ребята, пожалуйста, отключайте свои микрофоны, чтобы мы не отвлекались и не было никаких помех. Спасибо большое. So, and the next question is about your college experience. From 1 to 10, how would you evaluate your college experience so far?
This is tough because before coronavirus, I was having a great time and I didn't really have any complaints, but now obviously that I'm not able to, I actually happen to be at one of the very few schools where students will be taking classes in person this semester. But even then, there's a lot of restrictions. Golf was canceled. We have to sit super far apart in the classroom. Most of my classes are going to be online anyways. So I'll give it a 7. I think that's fair.
Okay. So last question from Blitz. Is Cornell Red Army?
Yeah, I think that's fair. So we aren't part of the 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤, but we do all wear red and sing songs praising that red and hold hands. So, I mean, we're basically the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So that wasn't the last question, and we all know that every state in U.S. has its own culture. So, but the only question that I have about the states is, what's up with Florida? What is so wrong?
Florida is, it's like, we don't talk about Florida. Let's just say that. Florida is made of two kinds of people. You got you have the richest people in the country living there, in super nice places, nicest places in the country. And then literally right across the street from them, you have the people doing drugs and eating fire hydrants every week on the news. So that's kind of the mix of people you get with Florida.
Yeah. So I have also mixed feeling about the Florida. Florida is just like the abundant child of the states that all his life in the woods. So, okay. So we'll proceed to our questions. So, and
The main question.
yeah. And before we start, your microphone is muted, so please unmute it. So, and as we all know, the application process is a big deal for most of the international students. So we will start with the application process questions. And first question that we have on our list is how to approach SAT. Gus, your microphone is muted.
There we go. So SAT, as I'm sure you guys know, is made up of 3 different sections. It's the math section, the grammar section, and the reading section. My approach for the SAT was to be able to do the math section well every time. And there's various ways for you to do that. I used something called 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙗𝙤, which I'll put in the chat right now, which has a free data bank of questions. And actually I can't type, but it basically is a website where it teaches you how to answer every math question. There's like a set formula for them. They have the same types of questions with different numbers. So if you can do it once, you can keep doing it. So that's how I did for the math section, and I did very well on it. And then for reading and grammar, it's just about doing it over and over again. When I first started, I did terrible in the reading section. I thought I sucked at reading comprehension. I was panicking when I was taking the test. But if you just keep doing it, it starts getting easier and easier, and you start noticing patterns. So it's just about repetition, honestly, just doing it over and over again.
Okay.
Okay. So what about the next other sections that especially are hard for international students? So
yeah. So the grammar section, that gave me, somebody that has spoken English their whole life, problems too. Again, you just have to try to find some sort of formula for it, because even if you don't think grammar has like this, and this to get to the right answer, it does every single time. There's always some rule that you can follow to get the right answer. So it's just about trying to learn how to do that. And 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙤, like I said, is a great place to do that. I can't type right now. Here, I'll send it to you over text. But that's overall, I think that's probably your best resource, just because it's free, and I used it and my SAT score went up more than 150 in 3 or 4 months just from doing. I didn't even obsess over it. I just did a few tests a week and tried to work a bit right before the test. So.
Okay.
yeah.
So as you notice, your SAT score is, to be accurate,
1520.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the secret? How you do that?
So for me, it was when I first took it, the very first time I took it, I got like a 1370, I think, or something. I did okay on reading, but I did really bad on math compared to what I did in the future. I had like a 640 or 650 on math. And I knew there were people in my math class that had learned the same thing as me that had gotten 800s on it. So I knew it was possible. I just had to go in and actually put in the time to learn it. And I did. I actually went to that Khan Academy I was talking about, went through there's only 20 types of questions for math. It's always the same kind of thing. And if you can really understand how to solve them, even if they make little changes when on the actual test, then you can end up doing really well. Because I think I missed one question, somehow still got an 800 on math, but I missed that one question and I don't think I could have done worse than that with my preparation.
So, and the next question that I would like to ask you is, so if we're talking about SAT and its preparation, but what international students must take into account during their preparation for the SAT?
For the SAT, I would just do as good as you can, but also know that if you don't do as well as you want to do, it's not the end of the world. Good grades and test scores are obviously great, but really, truly, for any school from Ivy Leagues to just like an average American school, the range of SAT scores is 200 to 300 to get in. You don't have to do great to get in. You just need to make yourself stand out. That's probably the best advice I can give to you. You could do it through your essays, you could do it through your teacher recommendations, do it through your extracurriculars, but just make sure that they remember you when they go back and choose the 100 students out of 1,000 to choose to get into the school. That's my best advice for you. So,
and from your point of view, what aspects of your application made you to stand out in the applicants pool?
So, I mean, obviously I had good grades and test scores, but going back to the last question, I think my extracurriculars made me stand out. I volunteered a lot. I participated in music. I was in the school band. I was in the musical. I did debate. I had a pretty successful stint in debate. I had a research paper published, and I was looking to play college level golf. And I think all those things kind of combined to make me stand out, because there's a lot of people, even in my friend group, who have like 1590 SAT, 4.2 GPA, but they don't really have anything else to them. And those people didn't get into some top schools, even with those test scores and grades. So really, truly, GPA, SAT, important, but not the only important thing.
So you just say that you did golf. So why golf?
I mean, honestly, I just love playing it. I think it's the perfect game for me. I could talk a long time about it. It's kind of the idea that as opposed to a team game, it's all on you to do it. It's just you against yourself. It's you against the golf course. And going along with it, there's a very integrated rule system in it. So your integrity is tested a lot. When you're practicing, your time management is tested a lot. You have to be focused and determined to play college level golf. It's probably one of, if not the hardest sports to learn in the world. So to reach the proficiency, it takes a lot of dedication. So I was always not looking to play college golf, but I kind of made a decision with maybe 2 years left in high school that I wanted to make it a reality. And I just worked super, super hard after school until it got dark every day. I started reaching out to coaches. I started playing better, and I got a ton of offers actually at some D3 liberal arts schools. And so a lot of those schools were the schools I applied to, but I also had some opportunities at bigger schools like Cornell, where the recruiting spots had already been filled. But if I were to get in, I could play on the team. And that's exactly what happened. Coach had one recruiting spot for him available each year, and he filled that before I was even thinking about college golf. But once I got in on my own, I was on the team. I didn't have to try out. So it certainly helped me. If nothing else, even for Cornell, if I wasn't recruited, it kind of focused what I was trying to do, and made me work harder and made me better at time management, which translated into studying. So.
All right.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
And also, you mentioned that you get pretty good offers from other school and liberal arts colleges. So one of the most important questions for international students is how to create your own unique college list, because choosing a right college to study in and to apply for is also a great question to consider.
Right. So at my high school, we had something a lot of schools in the US, high schools in the US don't have, which is college counselors. So basically it was a one-on-one mentor that helped you get your college list together and tried to be realistic about it. So what my counselor's philosophy was, is let's say you apply to 10 schools. For some people, you might only be able to apply to 1 or 2. Some people you can do more, but let's say for 10 schools, you want 5 of them to be safety schools that you think you have a really good chance of getting into. So these schools might have very low SAT requirements or GPA requirements. They might be whatever, but basically for those 5 schools, you want to find a school that you could see yourself going to. So for me, my safety schools that I can think of were NC State, which is right next to my house, McAllister College in Minnesota, and Rhodes College in Tennessee. And those were the 3 safety schools that I knew, I mean, unless something really weird happened, that I was probably going to get into. And obviously I would have liked to go to like a better school like Cornell or UNC, but just in case, because the college admissions process is so random sometimes, you just have to have those safety schools in there. And after those safety schools, you've got 5 left. Choose 2 that you think you can get in, but you aren't sure. So for me, that was probably UNC and Carleton College, and I ended up getting into both of them. And then after that, you can apply to the reach schools that you don't think you have that good of a chance in, that you really want to go to, because you never know. I mean, there are people with I know people at school that didn't think they stood any chance at all to get in, and they did, because they probably made themselves stand out even if their grades weren't very good. So just go for it if you're able to, and if it works out, then that's awesome. If not, you have the safety schools to fall back on.
Okay, right. So the next questions that we have are about your studies, like and your major. Can you please tell more about your major? Can you please talk about more about your major, what you're studying, and what you're going to do after you graduate?
Right. Okay. So my major is Earth and Atmospheric Sciences, and there's various concentrations within that. And right now, I don't have to make a decision for another year, but I'm going to go for planetary science, which is basically astronomy. It's the study of how planets form and different climate dynamics on those planets. And honestly, I chose that because it's something I'm interested in. It's literally nothing more. Like, I don't have any long-term plans to be in earth sciences as a career. So my parents' philosophy on this, which is different from a lot of people's, is that in college, you should study what you want to study. And we'll get into it later, but that's one of the great things about studying in America, is you can totally change your mind, and it's super easy to do. So for an example, my grandfather, he ended up being a successful businessman, and he studied geology like me in college. My dad is a doctor right now, and he was a philosophy major and music minor. So what they've kind of told me is, in the 4 years that you're at college, choose something you're super interested in, that you enjoy studying. And then if you want to work in that, great. If not, then it's fine. It doesn't really matter in the long term too much. So that's why I chose earth sciences.
Okay. So, what should a specialist in your field do to prepare himself for university, for the job?
Yeah, so before university, I mean, you don't have to do anything. I happen to have AP classes in my high school, college level classes. So I did a few of those, and I could use those credits in college. So it kind of lessened the total number of classes I have to take, which is nice. As for after graduation, somebody that's a planetary scientist or an earth scientist, they're going to be doing a lot of field work, going out, looking at rocks, or looking through a telescope, trying to study various properties of planets. And then they're going to eventually turn that into research, and they're going to try to get grant money and keep doing research and overall contribute to the knowledge of humanity. Again, I don't know if that's what I want to do right now. I don't think I do, because I have some different aspirations, but worst case, if I have to fall back on that, it still looks like a lot of fun.
All right.
Okay,
So you're
yeah.
talking about planetary science. How do you relate planetary science to your major?
Right. So within Earth and atmospheric sciences, at Cornell, there's 8 or 9 concentrations. One of them's geology, study of rocks. One of them's petrology, which deals with oil. One of them's climate, which is, weather, storms, all that. And then another one is planetary science. And when I first came to Cornell, I thought I was going to be a chemistry major, and that changed in literally 2 weeks of college chemistry. I was like, I do not want to do this if I don't have to. And then after that, I thought I wanted to be an astronomy major. So in my freshman year, I took a super high level astronomy course. I liked it, but I didn't really want to continue learning because we started getting into theoretical physics and quantum mechanics, and that stuff just kind of fried my brain. But I think this is a great balance because I still get to learn about something else I'm interested in earth sciences, but I also get to kind of focus a few classes back towards astronomy. So, yeah.
Okay, so it is obvious that you have a great profile even for Ivy schools, and we'd like to ask you some questions about your background. So as far as I know, you attended a private high school, Durham Academy, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please tell us what is the difference of private academy comparing it to public schools, and just generally the difference of American high schools, especially, for example, your high school from other schools worldwide?
Yeah, so basically, just by definition, a public high school is generally funded by the government. So in other words, students that attend don't have to pay a tuition. They can just go there and everything's funded for them. The only thing they have to pay for really is school lunch. And the private academy that I went to in high school, you do pay a tuition to attend. So you do pay a fee to attend. And on top of that, public schools in the US, because they're government funded, and you don't have each student spending a ton of money to go there, they don't have quite the same opportunities that a private academy has. So that might be in terms of how educated the teachers are. Like at my high school, all the teachers, even like the receptionists, they all have master's degrees and PhDs and all that. Whereas a public school, they usually have a college education and just a bachelor's degree. So there is not always, but sometimes a difference in the level of education you get. So for somebody like me that went to a private academy, it's going to be a little easier for me to get into college. One, because my school had some prestige, and two, because my teachers were more qualified to be teaching, and they have some reputation when they recommend you. So all those things kind of helped me a lot. And that's not to say people from public schools can't work their way up and eventually make it. There's a girl that went to the public school. She lives right down the road from me, and she is going to Harvard right now because she is super smart and did a lot of extracurriculars. And at that point, if you have good enough grades and good enough SAT scores and you make yourself stand out enough, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. There's people that went to my private academy that put a ton of money into their education that aren't going to college now because they didn't put anything into it. So if I could simplify it in the best way, I'd say private academies seek to prepare students for college, and public high schools are built to set students up for college, but just make sure they get through high school and can go into society with a high school degree.
Okay, so talking about school, is there any teachers from your school that you hate most? Hate or love? I don't know.
All right, so
you
easy
hate and
answer
love.
for the one I hate the most is my French teacher in high school. He was a really bad person. For high school golf, you would get let out of school early to go play golf, which is awesome. It's like one of the first reasons I got into golf at high school. But when I would miss class, he would give me a 0 for participation in the class, even though like I was doing a sport. And he was just not a good person either. He'd say a lot of really, really rude things to people. And he was really bad at teaching French too. So I thought I hated languages, even though I could speak quite a bit of French. I just, when I got to college, I was like, I don't want to take a language. And then I took Russian, and my professors are some of the best people I know. And now it's probably my favorite class up at school. So yeah. And then,
so the 2 languages.
what's up?
So like the 2 languages, one is your most hated and one is the most loved.
Yeah, so French is my most hated high school teacher, and then honestly my favorite teacher ever is probably my main Russian professor.
Okay.
So that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So since we started talking about the school, let's talk about your university, about Cornell. So what are the 5 advantages and disadvantages of your university?
All right. 5 best things. I mean, the first one is, and this is rare for good schools for some reason, is dining on campus. Cornell food is amazing. They always rank super high. And I mean, they have these dining halls with super skilled chefs. They make these healthy, really tasty food in the area. There's a ton of really good food too. And I know people at Stanford, apparently the food at Stanford isn't very good, which is a little crazy considering it's Stanford. But yeah, I'd say campus food, one of the best parts about it. On top of that, the location is really nice. I'm there right now, even though I'm not technically allowed to leave because of the quarantine. I'm in Ithaca, New York, which is maybe 50,000 people. It's right in the middle of New York, not really close to anywhere. But Ithaca is built to be a college town. It's built around the 2 universities that are there. And so there's a ton of opportunity to go out and socialize. There's a ton of things to do. When it's not cold, the area is really, really beautiful. So I mean, yeah, this is honestly a great place until November, and then I hate it more than anything because it gets cold and you can't go outside. And let's see, I'd say, so something unique about Cornell compared to the other Ivies is its diversity. So obviously you have diversity in terms of racial demographics, the Black, white, Asian, all that. But what's unique about Cornell is the financial backgrounds of the students. Cornell has the largest portion of first-generation college students among the Ivy Leagues. So what that means is 20% of the students at Cornell have never been to college. They're the first ones in their family to go to college, and way higher than most of the other Ivies. So you really do mix with people from a ton of backgrounds. And after that, let's see, I'd go with the wide range of classes. Cornell's the biggest Ivy League, got 20,000 students at it. And within the university, there's 12 different schools. So I'm in the liberal arts school. There's a farming school. There's a business school. There's a hotel school. And you're allowed to take classes at any of these schools. So while I'm doing my earth sciences in the liberal arts school, I'm taking chimpanzee behavior over at the ecology school. I'm taking wine tasting at the hotel school. There's just so much opportunity here. If you have a spot or 2 in your schedule, you can take literally any class you can imagine. And that's actually like the mantra of the school is any person can study. There's 8,000 classes or something ridiculous. And kind of going off of that, I would say the size is good for that reason. You meet a ton of people from every background, from every opinion. There's hundreds of clubs. And just, yeah, when I was going in, a lot of the schools, especially the ones I got recruited for at Gulf, were very small. And I thought that's what I wanted. But having come to Cornell where it's big, even if some of the classes are bigger and you can't interact with the teacher as much, I definitely prefer it just because of the opportunities you have. So on the flip side, we're going to go to the things I don't like about it, which aren't really that bad. The only really bad one is some of the campus housing, namely the campus housing I was in my first 2 years. So I'm gonna tell you guys a little story right now. As a freshman coming in, after a week after you say I want to go to Cornell, you get your housing for the next year. And my housing freshman year was in a building called low-rise 6, which doesn't exactly give you feelings of joy and comfort. But I was like, okay, it can't be that bad. Like Ivy League, like they got to have good housing. I looked it up, and the very first result on Google was an article called "The Worst Places to Live in America." And my dorm was on that list. And I was like, you gotta be kidding. Like, this has to be a joke. It can't be that bad. I get there. The building was built during the Vietnam War, which is in the 1960s. And it was built to discourage student rioters. So what that means is they made the building as confusing as possible to navigate, so people couldn't go in and loot it. So I had a second floor bedroom, and I had to go through 6 doors, up 4 flights of stairs, and down 3 flights of stairs to get there. And it took like 5 minutes to get to my room. It was terrible. There wasn't even carpet on the ground. It was like patchy. I didn't have a view. There was one window in my room, and it was blocked by a tree. They would force triple rooms of 3 students into rooms that were built for 2. And probably the best experience I had there, I was doing laundry at the very end of the year in the basement. I'd been there 6 months doing laundry in that room, and there'd been all this stuff on the wall, and I thought it was mold, and it was. So there I am doing laundry, and 3 guys wearing yellow hazmat suits come in, like big full body protective gear, and they're like, "We need you to leave." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "We have toxic mold here. Like, it's dangerous to be here." And they just hadn't told us that for 6 months, that it was dangerous to live in the building. Thankfully, they're tearing that building down right now, so nobody else will have to suffer through that. So yeah, I mean, that's the worst part of my experience. And if I'd gotten lucky and gotten a good thing with air conditioning and all that, would have been fine. That was the other bad thing. My room, obviously being in New York, it gets super cold in the winter, and our room had 1 heater, and it was under my bed, which means our room was heated through my bed, which means my bed was always 100 degrees when I was sleeping on it. And there was no way to change it, since it was no, second year was also bad. I got the other bad dorm. I'm talking to Busby in the chat, because I got stuck in the second worst dorm on campus, and there was 1 bathroom on my floor, and it was on the other side of the building, so I had to walk like 3 minutes to get there. But now we're fine. We're out of those 2 places.
That's weird.
So yeah, so at the end of freshman year, they hold a lottery system for your sophomore year housing. So they give you 40 random numbers, and whatever they go like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever number you had is the place you got it. And there were 40 spots, and I got the 39th one. So after being in the worst dorm, I got the second worst dorm. So let's see, other cons of Cornell. I brought this up before. You really can't go outside between November and March. It gets super, super cold, and being down south in the US, I really do not like the cold at all. Just my opinion. Some people love it. I don't know why. After that, this is more specific to American schools, because we have college sports, and those can be a way for people to socialize a lot. And Cornell's sports aren't very good. Golf is like maybe 100th in the country, and we're like one of the best teams at the school. Our football team is terrible. They won 1 game last year. Other cons, I'd say their response to the COVID pandemic wasn't handled very well. They made a lot of promises, such as providing housing, quarantine housing for students, and then broke them. So we're lucky enough to know people here that let us stay in their house, but I know a ton of people that aren't going to school now because they were told they could stay somewhere. And then a week before they came back, Cornell was like, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to let anybody stay." And then the thing that I knew coming in, but was still kind of a shock, is that Cornell is hard. It's really, really hard, because you have all these super, super, super good students that are studying a ton every night in the library, and you have to compete with those people, and they curve the classes to B average or a B- average. So you do have to put in the work, and it's hard, but I mean, I really do think the pros far outweigh the cons.
All right. So you said that it's hard. So are there a lot of nerds in the university,
Nerds. I mean, yeah, at any school, but not as much as Harvard and MIT. So
Okay. So
Yeah,
so you think
so
that in Harvard and MIT, like there are too much nerds?
I don't know about too much. I just know that more than us. That's my answer.
Oh, really?
okay,
Okay.
okay. So another great part of your college experience, despite your academics, is your social life. And I'm really interested about the aspect of your CV that you also indicated in LinkedIn and other various profiles, and it's participating in a Greek culture. So you're a
Yeah.
part of fraternity. So what it is like to be a part of fraternity, because the only thing that we know, like in Kazakhstan, based on movies and American comedy movies, especially, that it's just like a company, like not just a company, it's just like a small community of one gender individuals that are always partying and doing like nothing. The only thing that they do is making large parties on the campus. So what is the reality of being a part of fraternity?
So there is definitely part of it that is exactly what you see in the movies, like really loud guys that are slightly out of shape and overweight, drinking a ton and partying a ton and all that. That is part of it. But what the movies won't show you is that it really is a brotherhood. We get along super close. Some of the people I'm the closest to are in my fraternity. We live together. We do everything together. We get along a lot. There's a very strong sense, almost like family between us, and it's gonna last far past our college years. It'll always be something I look back on after I graduate. Some of the best times of my life are with my fraternity brothers. So
Do you have
yeah.
any stories related to your fraternity?
God, I'm not sure what I can say.
Like about alcohol parties, something like that.
Whatever you are comfortable sharing with us would be very
Here, I
useful.
mean, I'll tell you one story. That so my freshman year, I didn't know it at the time because I joined sophomore year, but the fraternity I ended up joining had a Halloween party. And I assume you guys know what Halloween is. Basically, it's you dress up in costumes and get candy and all that. So for some reason, me being a dumb freshman in college, I didn't realize that you wear costumes to these parties. And I didn't realize that until 5 minutes before we left for said party. I was just wearing like t-shirt and shorts. So I didn't have a costume because I walked into the lobby and there's like somebody dressed as a dinosaur. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, oh wait. So I didn't have a costume. So I raced back upstairs. I looked at all my clothes and I was like, okay, you've got to figure something out. Like, okay, let's see. Over here, nothing. And I saw the red Nike golf shirt and the black pants and a golf visor. And I was like, okay, I'm going as Tiger Woods. Probably a terrible idea, but I mean, you got to do something. You can't show up in nothing. It's better than nothing. So I showed up wearing my stupid golf clothes at a college party looking like an idiot. And I walk in the room and the very first, it's like a massive, like there's 300 people in this room, super packed. The very first person I see in the room is a girl from the neighboring college who's also wearing golf stuff. And she ended up being one of my friends for 2 months after that.
Okay, cool.
Real good.
Okay. So also, one of the questions from the chat that is really important is related to the finances. So did you get financial aid, or are you paying like a full tuition for your college?
So my dad works at Duke University Hospital in Durham, North Carolina, and for their faculty members, the hospital pays for a lot of my tuition. I think it's something like 60 or 65% or something like that. And with my dad being a doctor, I happen to be extremely lucky in that I don't have to get financial aid for my education and I won't have student loans. I'm in the minority. For American students, most schools, if not all schools, will cover all the need that students have. So that allows people from backgrounds that might not be able to afford a college education, that allows them to go to college. They do have to take on some pretty serious student loans in the future, but they're able to attend. I know for international students, there's only a few schools in the US that provide full financial aid for international students. And I know that's one of the biggest problems for you guys when you're looking at schools. But I also do know that you can get a lot of scholarships from places, not necessarily at good schools either. Like McAllister College, it was one of my safety schools. I basically wouldn't have to pay anything if I went there, because they gave me a $20,000 scholarship, and with the benefits my dad was getting as part of Duke, I mean, that basically cut down all the aid. My brother's a freshman at Cornell. He's here in the house with me. He had a scholarship at SMU. So, I mean, again, it's case by case, and I don't know the specifics, but just because you don't get financial aid doesn't mean that it's going to be a super bad burden for you to attend school in the US.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even though, as you said before, Cornell has the largest population of first generation in college. So I think that it is a sign that Cornell provides a sufficient amount of financial aid to its incoming students, even though it's one of the most expensive schools in the country. And moving on to the next question is why you chose Cornell and why you should consider applying to Cornell.
All right. So, I mean, I went over the pros and cons. Ignore the cons, because those bad dorms are going away. You won't have to worry about them if you go.
This is why you should not apply to Cornell.
The pros I brought up with the location and the dining and the ability to literally like study anything that's offered. Wine tasting in the country. I just truly think it's one of the best places you can go. There's so much opportunity there. You form a lot of great connections. The area is really nice, and you're gonna have fun going there. Obviously, it's a very hard school to get into, but I really don't see myself going anywhere else. I'm so happy. I had a choice between my 3 schools that I was choosing at the very end were Cornell University, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and Carleton College in Minnesota. Those were the 3 I was choosing. And not a fan of the cold, I can't really go to Minnesota, which is way up north, or New York, which is way up north. But at the same time, it was UNC, which is right next to home, or Cornell, and I ended up choosing Cornell, and I'm very happy I did. And yeah.
But what really distinguishes Cornell from other Ivies? Like, well, what is the difference of being a part of Cornell rather than attending Harvard or any other top school?
Yeah, so compared to the other Ivies, I think location is probably one of the most important. Just because Ithaca, where Cornell is literally built as a college town. It's built around the university. Most people in the city work at the university. It's in terms of experience at Cornell, you're going to get way more out of it than any other Ivy, in my honest opinion, because the other ones are either in a really bad spot in a city like Harvard. Personally, my personal opinion, Harvard, it's not a good campus. I don't like the look of it. Or it's in literally the middle of nowhere, like Dartmouth. But Cornell allows you to have kind of the feeling of a city, in that you can basically do whatever you want, but you're also able to go outside and go around. In terms of academics, it's compared to the other Ivies, it's the size of the school. You have 12 different schools, and you can take classes in any one of them, and you can switch between them. You can switch your major. There's hundreds of clubs that you can be a part of. So many opportunities that I just think you can get so much more out of education at Cornell than any other Ivy.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully today we have mostly like school students. So for the school students, can you give some advices like about volunteer experience? How you find volunteering stuff, how you get there, something like that.
Yeah, so my high school, again, we're going back to private academy, built to get students into college. They had a lot of volunteering integrated into the actual school. So what we would do, me and the other 10 people in my homeroom, we would have one day every month. Instead of going to school, we would go and volunteer. And so the places that we did that at, including packing diapers at the diaper bank, or going to the local science museum and just helping them get stuff organized and set up exhibits and all that. We helped tutor with kids at preschools. And one of my favorite all time was one day every year, everybody in the high school would go to the North Carolina Special Olympics and be with an athlete for the whole day and work with them and make sure they know where they're going and just like be a mentor for them for that day. And we did that all 4 years of my high school. It was one of the best experiences that I had throughout the year. So for you guys, especially since Nurjan kind of told me like a big part of Kazakh culture is helping your community and volunteering. I'd say strive to be a volunteer in your application. I think you guys being from Kazakhstan can really make yourself stand out by being a volunteer, whether that's just helping around your community or starting an organization or whatever. You guys have a lot of opportunity to make a difference in your communities and ultimately make a difference in your college application as well.
Yeah, so I would like to add one thing about volunteering in Kazakhstan. So oftentimes people just misunderstood the fact of volunteering, and instead of taking part in bringing a positive impact to their society through participating in various events, they try to participate in one-day event. For example, if there is some kind of a sport competition, they are volunteering there as a person who handles water bottles to the athletes. So what do you think about this type of volunteering?
Yeah, I mean, so that's what the Special Olympics is too. It's just one day of the year. That's all you do. But I personally don't think it matters. I think if you go and make the effort to make a change in somebody's life, then that's all that matters, whether it's a 2-month commitment or a 1-day commitment.
Okay, so
because I definitely know Special Olympics was that was at the forefront of my volunteer experience. That's what my counselor told me to do. And it was just one day a year.
So it's all about the result that you get in the end of the day.
Yeah, it's what you're able to say about your experience at the end of the day. Like you might do the same thing every day for 2 months and not really have much to say for it. But if you have one day where you got some really good memories and really made a difference in one person's life, then I think that's worth more.
So commitment is the key.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there are a lot of people who are interested in how you combine like sports, volunteering, academic success. Like, is there any study habits or something you can share with us?
Yeah, so for me personally, basically high school was go to school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then practice golf until it got dark, whether that's 5:30 in December or 7:30 in the spring. And then after that, I had to go back home and study. And it was definitely a lot, but I had some very supporting parents and they just told me to not put so much pressure on myself. With time management, give yourself some free time. That's worth more than destroying your brain trying to study and learn like 1% more of whatever. You really should balance your time appropriately. You don't have to literally spend every second of every day trying to build up your resume for colleges. You can definitely have some free time and relax. But yeah, it is a balance. It is tough for you guys in high school. I must say, it was very stressful for me the last few months before I applied to college, trying to get everything in order. But just know there is light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're able to be easy on yourself and get out of there, then it's great afterwards.
Okay. And like, if you were able to teleport like to 5 years ago, what would you say to yourself? Is there any advices?
Yeah, I mean, probably exactly what I just said. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. You don't have to be perfect in life. You don't have to do everything well. You don't have to do well on every test. I think I put way too much pressure on myself from the beginning, and when you everybody messes up, everybody has mistakes, and if you already are set up for perfection, when you have those mistakes, you're just gonna hurt yourself in the long term, I think.
Right. Okay. So for those who doesn't know, so Gus's mom, she also got into all top Ivy schools, and she ended up attending 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙤. So could you please share about of her background, please, with us? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're very interested in just listening to her story.
Yeah. So my mom instead of me is the one that you should really be looking up to, because she grew up. She lived part of her life in France when she was growing up, but she spent high school and her early life on a farm in Minnesota. Her parents were educated, but she really wasn't in a good spot. She was in a very rural place where not a lot of people even graduate high school. And she kind of made the decision by the time she got to high school that she wanted to get out of there, and she didn't want to be stuck in Brainerd, Minnesota, a town of 3,000 people. So she resorted herself that she was going to do really well in school, and she was going to get into a top school, and she was going to go out and have a life for herself. And that's exactly what she did. She was valedictorian at her school. She did really well on tests. She got into, I believe, every single IB, Stanford, 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙤, and she got out of there. And she was an accountant for a while. She's working as a health coach right now. And yeah, she made the decision to get out of there and to go to college, even though basically everything was stacked against her. And here she is. She's my mom.
Okay, thank you so much. That was great. So, and we have a couple of questions left before we jump in Q&A session. So just to relieve all that serious atmosphere that we
The
have
questions
here.
are not related to admission to university, just your thoughts.
Yeah. So so
The
is
first question.
Stephen Hawking a badass?
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure you guys all know Stephen Hawking. The guy was in a wheelchair for 50 years and he couldn't even move or talk or anything. And then he basically just had some completely mind-blowing discoveries in the field of astrophysics about how the world works and where the universe is going in the future. So yeah, definitely badass. He didn't give up. Yeah.
Okay, so is Elon Musk badass?
Elon. I don't think badass is the right word for the nutcase that's Elon. Don't get me wrong.
What's the difference?
That is true. He's doing more than like probably anybody else in the world right now to kind of push science forward with SpaceX and AI development and all that. But he's also, in recent months, as some of you might be aware, kind of like lost his mind on Twitter. Whether it's posting that the moon isn't real or naming his son like 𝘽𝙤𝙤𝙗 or whatever it is.
He also thinks that we're living in the Matrix.
Oh yeah, well we
Like
probably are.
Like
so you agree with him?
I don't know if I want to say that, but
yeah,
I mean,
I actually think
I'd say the odds are greater than 0 that he's a lizard person.
Yeah, but being a person that is basically a role model for almost like every child that goes for STEM specialty in high school and in college, and smoking weed like on live television
Joe
is just
Rogan.
like something that is odd. Like
yeah, there's definitely something off about him, but I mean at the same time it's kind of like him just showing that like you can be whoever you want to be. Like he doesn't have to, like the other super rich billionaires, they always say the right thing, they always go and do that. They don't really have like an outward personality. And I think him, even if the things he do are questionable in terms of morals, I think it's good on him for doing that.
But at the end of the day, he can smoke weed on live television and still be friends with Kanye.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, continue.
So what are your plans for future?
Okay, so I mean, this has changed so much in the last 2 years, and it's probably going to change again. When I was probably at this point last year, I was set on going to med school and becoming a doctor. And it's still up there as one of the top things I want to do. But I this summer worked at a dental practice, just like helping out, sanitize stuff, and sometimes working with the patients. And that looked like a lot of fun because for me, one of my aspirations in the future is to have a ton of free time. And obviously you want to be successful at the same time. And that's kind of what dentistry allows you to do. The guy I worked for works 30 hours a week. He makes a very, very nice salary. He gets to work with people, and his day-to-day life is always changing. He's always doing something different. He doesn't get trapped in doing the same thing over and over again. So that appealed to me a ton. If not that, then I think I'm going to try something. I might try something golf related. I'm not sure if I could be a pro golfer, but maybe start some sort of golf oriented business or work as a swing coach or something like that. But basically what I think I'm going to do right now is try something not patient care like dentist or doctor for a few years, and just if I happen to like it, we can go with that. But if not, I'm taking all the right classes to hopefully be able to go to dental or med school in the future. And that's kind of what my dad did. My dad didn't go to med school until his late 20s. The dentist I worked with didn't become a dentist until his mid 30s. So there's definitely no rush to get into anything for me.
Okay. So you said that you have a YouTube channel, which is right now have like 25,000 subscribers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Could you tell us more about your YouTube channel?
And,
yeah. So
and another fact that he has combined over like more than 45 million views.
yeah. So back in the day, and I will never ever release this YouTube channel's name, I had a gaming channel throughout middle school and early high school, and like nobody's like, I'll die before I say it. There's some, it's still up there, but there's some pretty cringy stuff on there. But that's where I learned how to edit videos and kind of make something entertaining, even if getting 200 or 300 views was entertaining at the time. And when I got to college, one thing for me, I feel like I have an obligation as somebody that plays golf a lot to kind of educate people on how fun the sport can be, because a lot of people have never played golf. A lot of people don't even know what golf is. And on golf YouTube, the professional golf tours, the highlights that they release are terrible. They're just like, oh, like it almost makes you want to not watch them. Like the audio goes from super low to super loud. They don't even show half the shots that were good. So there wasn't really any sort of good YouTube setup for golf videos. So having the ability to edit videos, I went in and made some golf compilations of the shots that I think people who don't watch golf should see to hopefully get them into the sport. I don't make any money off of it because it's all copyrighted footage from the Pro Tours. But the very first video I made got 1 million views in a month, which is pretty sick. And then overnight, somehow, I was making probably a video every 2 or 3 weeks. Overnight, I started getting on trending. Because I made a video, I went to bed, I woke up, it had 2 million views the next day. Right now that video has 12 million views. And I kind of adopted a strategy of making thumbnails that look like clickbait, but actually aren't. And I think that's what keeps people watching. So I had something that like very obviously looks like clickbait, but then you click on it and it does exactly what the thumbnail showed the ball doing. And I think that caused people to kind of retain their attention for the videos. So yeah, I haven't uploaded in a few months right now, and I'd probably do another one soon. But right now I got more than 40 million views, 25,000 subscribers. And I just did it by making some basic level videos in a market where there wasn't really anything else to compare it to.
So you're planning to develop your YouTube channel further?
I think so, yeah. So basically with how NCAA athletics works, I can't make money off of myself. So if I were to like record me playing golf, I couldn't make any money off of it. But I still might start like putting myself in the videos, because right now it's just compilations. It's not really anything that like anybody could have made those videos. But I definitely want to try to grow on it and maybe make a brand out of it, because I think I got lucky enough that to even be in the position I am right now, I should probably try to take up advantage of it.
Okay. So also, Gus, he's also famous for being a good memeologist. So he makes a lot of memes about golf. And
yeah.
Just to continue our interview, Do you have any awkward stories that happened to you in university? And after that, we'll go to your motivational speech, like something that you would really want to share with others. And then we will continue with questions from our viewers.
All right. So, I mean, I already told you probably like one of the most like panic driven moments that turned out really well at the Halloween party. But my freshman year, so I had a roommate freshman year, and you put in your email and you're supposed to like contact each other and all that. So I put in my email and I typed it in wrong. So he had an email that like basically didn't exist. And apparently he sent like 20 emails to that email address and just never got a response. And he thought I was like really weird and like ignoring him or something like that. And then I actually didn't like meet him until the day I moved in. So he probably thought I was like really weird or something, but then we ended up getting along. So I'm happy that worked out.
Okay, great. So now please give us some motivation.
Yeah, so I didn't really prepare anything, so this is just coming straight from the heart. But I'm going to give you my perspective on how I've approached college education. I've talked about it quite a bit before, but you guys being in high school and at this key stage where you're about to go to college, don't feel like you have to have your whole life planned out for the next 10 years. No matter what people in your life tell you, trust me, I've had some experience with people from your country. You don't have to have everything figured out now. I thought I was going to be a math major when I was in high school. I thought I was going to be a chemistry major when I first got here. I'm earth science now because I'm stuck to it because I have to commit. But you just have to not put so much pressure on yourself about what exactly you want to do. Nurjan kind of brought up something when we talked the other day that career mentors at universities, when they work with students, they find most of the time those students actually change their major and go to something that they actually want to enjoy studying. So again, just don't feel like you have to have everything planned out right now. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. If you guys are watching this, you're obviously motivated to seek education. You're probably all really good students. And yeah, I mean, that's literally the best advice I can give you guys right now, is that you're capable of doing this. You guys are good students. And just don't feel like you have to have everything figured out right now. People are going to tell you that 100 times, but just don't put so much pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you have to study all day, every night to try to get an edge. Just take some time off. You can have free time. You can have fun. And yeah, that's pretty much what I can tell you guys.
All right, thank you very much. So we can turn now to Q&A session.
Yeah, so now everyone is able to turn his her microphone on and ask questions. But if you're not comfortable with this, we can start with reading questions right from the chat, starting from the most fresh ones to the ones that are in the beginning. So the first question is, what did you write about in your Common App essay?
God, I can't even remember. Actually, I do remember. So my comment, I mean, it was probably something like every high school athlete wrote about. I wrote about golf, but I kind of tied it in with the real life skills that I translated from golf. So the integrity of the game, calling penalties on yourself if you make a mistake in a tournament, respecting other people, sportsmanship of the game, the time management that accompanies practicing. I have to balance school and volunteer and all that with trying to become a high level golfer, taking up the game much later than everybody else. There's a lot of respect in the game. There's a lot of determination in having these aspirations to play at a higher level. And I mean, obviously I can't remember the exact words I wrote about, but that's kind of what I wrote my Common App essay about. And I think if you can make it genuine, even if it's about something that you feel is stupid, you can make a really good essay out of it. Because again, your goal isn't necessarily to write the best words, it's to make them remember. So I had an admissions counselor tell me that one of the best essays she ever wrote was somebody writing about her family and what life was like after the divorce between your parents, and that was the one that stuck in her mind. She said it wasn't the best written essay ever, but it felt genuine, and that's why she remembered it, and that's why that person got into the school.
Okay, thanks. So, so how many universities did you apply to?
I applied. I applied to roughly 15, I want to say, and I got into all my safeties and 4 other schools, which were Carleton, UNC, UC Santa Barbara, and Amherst, and those are the schools I got into.
Okay, so also we have questions related to the SAT. Will SAT subject test results help get into top universities, and how important they are this year? Because as we all know, due to COVID-19 outbreak, many universities decided to cancel or to waive the SAT requirement. And we just want to know, like, what is your opinion on SAT and its importance in college admission?
Yeah, so almost all the schools I applied to, the only school of all the ones I applied to that actually required the subject tests was Georgetown. And I think you guys being international, there's going to be a lot more free space to work around that if you happen to not do well on them. I didn't even submit mine, honestly, because I didn't feel I didn't do well on either of the ones I took. So I was like, this is probably just going to hurt me. If you do well on them, definitely use them, because like Nurjan said, without the SAT score, that might be a way to make yourself stand apart. But I wouldn't worry about it too much, because I didn't use them. I got into an Ivy League. Again, for me, I probably should have used them because I was at a school in the US and all my peers were using them. But I'm pretty sure, as you guys being international, again, if you do great on them, that's fine. But there is like a higher level, like you need to have a very good grasp of the English language to be able to do that. So my guess would be, if you're international, it's not going to matter as much.
Okay, thank you so much. What else?
Someone asked if you did college decision reaction video. Like, if you have TikTok, or what's your attitude to TikTok?
I do not have a TikTok. I don't want the Chinese stealing all my data. I didn't make a reaction video, but I still remember, because so all my reach schools, the Ivies I applied to, Berkeley, I don't even know where else. Like I had like 5 or 6, all my reach schools, all on the same day. And at that point, I'd only gotten into UNC and Carleton. I'd gotten waitlisted at UChicago and waitlisted at Davidson, which is like a school in North Carolina I really wanted to go to. So at that point, I was like, I don't like really only like 2 schools that I actually want to go to, because I didn't really want to go to my safeties that much. And I opened the 6 colleges on that day, and the first 5 were either waitlist or rejected. And then I opened Cornell, completely convinced I wasn't going to get in, and I got in, and that was the last school I opened. So I like lost my mind after that. So.
Okay. So
So there is one important question related to your motivation, like how you keep yourself motivated, even though we all have moments in our life when we don't have any energy for anything. So what is the secret of being so productive?
Honestly, you have to find a way for yourself to see the goal at the end of everything. For golf, practicing hitting the putt, a 4-foot putt, over and over again 500 times because you suck at putting, that wasn't fun at all. I hated that. My back hurt, my arms hurt, doing the same thing over and over again, not even knowing if it worked out. But actually seeing the results after a few weeks kind of all of a sudden made me realize that the hard work was paying off. And you just have to remember that in the short term, it's going to suck, and you might be super stressed out, and you might think that nothing's working your way, but just know that hard work always pays off no matter where you are.
Thank you so much. And the next question is more like personal. Do you like public speaking, and how do you deal with the scene phobia, like if you have anything like that?
Yeah, so back in middle school, I was like super introverted. Like I wouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, I had friends, but I wouldn't speak up in class ever or anything like that. And then sophomore year of high school, I decided to do debate. And I just did it on a whim. I was like, what if you like it? Like, let's just go for it. You can always back out. and I ended up getting like an absolute super genius of a partner. And we just kicked ass all year. Like we won states for the newbies. We almost made it to nationals as a newbie, which is like unheard of pretty much. And that really boosted my confidence, being able to talk and make an argument and having people agree with you and think that you're the better one. So it's just about confidence. You have to tell yourself that you can speak forever. Nobody really cares like if you mess up saying something. Like that's another thing I'd say to you guys who are maybe intermediate level of English. In college, nobody's gonna care if you like mess up grammar or like say the wrong thing. Everybody's gonna be encouraging, especially if they hear an accent at any college in the country.
Okay, so we have 3 more questions on the chat. So the first one, who's your favorite golf player? You already said that it's Tiger Woods. And the next one, what plan with which plan you applied to Cornell? Was it regular decision, early action, or early decision?
So I did early decision at Williams College in Massachusetts, which is one of the top liberal arts schools in the country. And I did it because I had a golf offer from them. And when you have a sport offer, you're supposed to get into the school. I didn't get in. Coach thought I got in. He sent me an email 2 days after I was rejected that he was like, I can't wait to have you next year. This is going to be great. So that really sucked. And then after that, I did everything regular. So I got into Cornell regular, which going back, I mean, obviously you can't like make those decisions in retrospect, but if I'd gone into early, it would have saved me a lot of stress in the second semester. So for you guys that are looking to do early action at every school you can think of, because it's not binding. You can apply early action to 15 schools. And then do early decision at a school it's a reach school that you really want to go to, because that's where you should use your early decision on. Unless there's a school that isn't a reach school that you really want to go to. You want to use it at the school you want to go to the most, even if there's a 1% chance of you getting in, because it's going to make that chance a lot higher. Like my brother applied early decision to Cornell. If he hadn't, he might have not gone in, but he did, and now he's here with me. So for early decision, definitely do it to the school you want to go to the most, even if you don't think there's a chance of you getting in.
Okay. So, and the next question is, I don't think that you can answer that, but it's related to the scholarship. So, somebody is asking, like, how many percent of accepted students receive 100% full scholarship?
So at most American schools, for American students, all their financial aid is met. But that's something a lot of schools pride themselves in doing. So like there's people in my fraternity there's a guy in my dorm freshman year that grew up homeless. He literally had nothing. He didn't even have a bank account, but he was able to go to Cornell because he was a super genius high school student that stood out a lot, and they were able to meet that. For international students, it's different. There are schools where they will meet that for international students, but those tend to be, I think it's like Harvard and Amherst and Princeton, like some really good schools. But as I brought up earlier, there are scholarships that if they don't eliminate completely, they can greatly reduce your cost of attending. So just because financial aid can't completely be met does not mean that it isn't feasible for you to come to school in America.
Yeah, so I also keep telling to my students that are taking my courses and my consultations on university and financial aid things. So there are only 8 need-blind universities in US, which are, as you said before, Harvard, MIT, Princeton, Yale, Minerva, and etc. So basically they have great funds, like endowment funds, that are really helping them to handle all of these expenses that international students may face during their studies. And most of the times schools are need aware. So you have to think about your estimated family contribution very thoroughly, just to make sure that it will be sufficient enough for university to take care of the financial need that you may have in the end of the day. So, and so next
question we have related to philosophy.
And your father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said, your father has philosophy major. So are you read books about philosophy related to philosophy? Are you interested in philosophy overall?
I am, but I haven't taken any action on it. I haven't read any books or taken any classes, although I want to, and I might actually next year. because my friend 𝘽𝙤𝙩𝙝, who's from Kazakhstan, he took one at Stanford next year, and he's like having existential crises every other day about like what's the meaning of life and why are we here and all that. But some of his arguments were really cool, especially about free will and all that. So I actually am very interested in it now, and this is a very recent development. I didn't think I wanted anything to do with it a few months ago.
So
Okay.
the next question is like, again, personal. What harmful dependencies and bad habits you have? It means like, Dota. You play Dota?
So I have never been like abusing substances, which is great. I'm happy I never got into that. Back in middle school, I did have coming with the gaming channel, I had a chronic Halo addiction. And I kind of let it get in the way of school quite a bit. High school doesn't really matter in the US, just like don't fail out and you'll be okay. But you're supposed to build good habits, and I really didn't. And I think I saw another question about bad habits somewhere else. I got to high school having kind of like cheated my, not literally cheated, just like faked my way through middle school by not really having to study that much to pass my classes. So I got to high school with a really bad procrastination problem. I just put stuff off until literally the last second. And even through high school, I was able to get through the first 2 years with like a 3.2 or 3.3 GPA, just not really studying for anything. And then I realized 3.2, 3.3 GPA probably isn't going to get you into the schools you want to get into in the future. So I just kind of became determined to get rid of it. So I started doing things the night they came out. I started taking harder classes, and I ended up getting 4.0 junior, senior year. And I mean, that literally made the difference between me going to a school where I probably wouldn't be very happy and where I am today.
Okay, so and next
Have you ever been
question.
in student council?
I have not, no.
Why?
I don't know. I just like, it's never interested me. I don't even know what like being in student council, like the jobs you do. But I mean, my roommate freshman year was on student council for a year, which there's only like 10 people. So out of 3,000, he was very driven to be a politician in the future. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's what you want to do, I think being student council in college is a great way to set yourself up for the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see that the last question. What genre of music do you prefer? You listen and you realize that you are a fan of certain genre, or?
So like lifelong, the last 5 or 6 years growing up on a golf course, you tend to be around adults a lot more. So I was kind of exposed to their music, which is like classic rock in the 70s and 80s. So that's what I kind of grew up listening to a lot. But then obviously being in college, you get, I mean, I've become a pretty big fan of hip hop in the last 2 years or so. So it's a pretty good mix of them. I'd say classic rock and rap is probably the two forefront.
I'll send you some Kazakhstan music then, because
oh, sweet.
Yeah, so our modern
music, I only know Iman Beck. That's the only one I know.
So our music was like really hardly affected by the hip hop culture of 90s, like with all of that Wu-Tang thing and what everybody was doing back in the day, was just like trying to become a rapper. But now our music industry has like a large number of famous artists that are famous for among all CIS countries though. So yeah, and
yeah, definitely send me some of that.
Yeah, so also, can you please tell us more about your volunteer? Is it volunteering at UCAN? Are you considered as a volunteer?
Okay, so UCAN is, so your friend Aya, her aunt is my friend's mom, so that's how I know her. So she's doing UCAN, which seeks to help students from large families and poor economic backgrounds, helps them tutor and learn the English language and all that. So Aya recruited me to find volunteers in the US to either work with the kids or be a mentor for the volunteers to kind of organize them. So the stage I'm in right now is I've reached out to my Russian professors, and they've given me various sources where I can kind of get a broad message out to the US. And it's been kind of slow going the last few weeks since most teachers aren't checking their emails during the summer. But my goal in the next few weeks is to get something out to all the Russian programs in the country, if possible, and try to get a ton of students for that. Because you don't have to speak Russian as part of 𝑽𝑘, but working with Russian speakers, I thought it would be a good way for the volunteers to get some conversation experience in, as well as helping the students out.
Yeah, that's actually great. Like, I remember my cousin, she studied at Indiana Bloomington back in the day, and she also did some kind of a volunteering, but it was related to Kazakh language. And after that, she brought, she was actually teaching Kazakh like in US, and then some of her students and people who were interested in Kazakh language in general, they went to Kazakhstan to explore the culture and to learn language. So basically you're doing the same thing, but online.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of fun though. I'm happy I reached out about all that. So I see this next question. What can you say to people who don't want to self-dev? I assume you mean by that like
It's about
personal improvement.
self-development. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, being introverted, Halo addicted, middle school, weird kid. I kind of adopted a viewpoint on life, which is that until you're 40 years old, this is really where you have the chance to do whatever you want to do. And I kind of realized when I'm old and looking back on life, like, do I want to remember my childhood as playing Halo 5 hours a day and not really getting anything done? Or do I want to try to get something productive out of it? And when I got to golf, I was like, okay, you play golf a ton, you're not very good at it. Do you want to actually try to go for this? Or are you going to regret in the future not having gone for this? In the last year and a half, do you want to be out of shape, or do you want to actually work out and get strong and be able to run and jump and all that? So my whole viewpoint on this is, if you're looking to improve yourself, just ask, is it worth going for it if it makes you happier in the future? And if the answer is yes, then definitely go for it. That's my motivation. I want to have the best experience I can in the prime years of my life.
By the way, in the beginning of this session, there were questions about like, why did you choose to study Russian, and are you planning to study Kazakh?
So there's a few reasons. I'll try to say it in Russian. My grammar is gonna be terrible. Мой друг, его зовут 𝘾𝙤𝙂𝙔𝙏, он казах, он говорит очень хорошо русский язык. Мой тетя из Москвы, и мой дядя работает в Украине. So there's people in my family, and I have a friend that speak Russian. And more importantly, I didn't want to keep going with French since it's a huge class. And I thought for languages, you should go for a small class, and Russian's 10 people at Cornell. So that's kind of why I went for it. It boils down. So my friend, in the month before this past year, I stayed with him in Florida for a month, and his mom doesn't speak very good English. So I did a ton of Duolingo just to like try to impress her. And I ended up, I learned the language. I learned some basic grammar and phrases. So I already knew probably the first month of learning by the time I started school. So I kind of set myself up for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
again, Florida.
there is a question like, if you had a little brother who doesn't interested in studying and developing, what would you do? I know that Nurjan will have beat his ass. So it's interesting. What would you do with him?
It depends how old my brother is. I mean, again, I don't know how it is for you guys. In America, it really does not matter how you do in school until high school. Kind of the purpose of middle school is to build the study habits that you're going to need for high school and college. So if I had a brother in the US that was 13 years or younger, I wouldn't really care. I'd be like, look, it's going to get real now, so it might be worth it. If he's in high school and he was like me the first 2 years and didn't put any effort in, I'd just be frank with him and be like, look, if you don't do well right now, then you might regret it in the future. And that doesn't mean lock yourself in the bedroom and study for 48 hours straight, but definitely if your brother isn't interested in studying, just kind of try to build some good habits with him, whether it's doing his homework right when he gets home or studying a little extra for the test or whatever.
Okay.
So in Kazakhstan, sometimes in some families we have pretty conservative, what I would say, like name as a stereotypical Asian approach of forcing
Yeah.
students just to study like a lot of time, like and putting in a lot of effort just to make good grades.
So that's what my friend from Kazakhstan, that's exactly how his parents are. They decided, unlike me, who got into golf on his own, his parents decided that golf can make him a lot of money. And so they forced him into it when he was really young. And he only recently started enjoying it until he's 16 or 17. He hated it and he didn't look forward to it at any point of the day just because his parents thought it could make him a lot of money. It's the same way with academics. He doesn't want to be a computer scientist, but that's where the money is. So that's where he's going into. And I mean, for me, it's completely unlike what I do because my parents have encouraged me to just do whatever you want to do. And it's completely different from, I'm guessing, what a lot of you guys have. So, I mean, my best advice, and you don't have to listen to it, is to just choose something you're interested in studying during college, because your major, unless you're like an engineer, it does not matter in the future. Like in 20 years, if people are hiring you, they're not going to care if you were a philosophy major or a chemistry major, as long as you have the other qualifications. The thing that my friend from Kazakhstan, and I saw a question about it earlier, kind of related to it, is you do not have to make the connections in college to everything. You don't have to go to every meeting and try to meet all the big CEOs and do all that. If you want to do that, go ahead. But really, those connections are going to matter more 20 years down the line than right during college.
Okay, so and the next question is, what do American universities pay most attention to when applying? So from my point of view, and I would say that universities, they pay attention to your academics, like how good was and how strong was your school curriculum, because it's obvious that we today we have access to all the international curriculums like IB and A levels, but on the other hand, you have to show that you are very active in your community and just try to, I think that the activities and extracurriculars are the thing that they are looking for, just to see what kind of qualifications you have other than academics. And one of the aspects that is also that can be very crucial is the finances and estimated family contribution in some way. So what do you think about it?
So for American students, which I know isn't the same for you guys, they have some like baseline GPA and SAT. Like if you have a really, really bad GPA, like a 1.7, a lot of schools will just throw out your application without reading the rest. But generally, they're looking for something that proves that you're driven to do something. And it could be in the form of GPA or test scores. It could be in the form of the passion of your essays or the work ethic that your teacher recs show. But as Nurjan said, you really do want to make yourself stand out apart from academics. You really want the extracurriculars that, those are honestly, in my opinion, assuming you guys are good enough to have the baseline numbers for GPA and SAT, which I'm sure you guys all have for a lot of American universities. You want those extracurriculars. That's what I would put your focus on. And as somebody who's had experience talking with admissions counselor at UNC, what they look at is for something that shows that the person could change the world in the future, which is kind of harsh as a high school student. But that's her mantra for that is, can this person show enough passion for something that they might make a difference in society in 20 years from now?
Yeah, so basically he is the ambassador of the school as soon as he graduates, and he's basically like making a public advertisement of the university as its alumni.
University face.
Okay, so I think
Have
we
you heard
are.
about 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙗𝙗
I don't know who is it though.
I have no idea who that is.
Me too. Окей, ребята, если есть вопросы еще, давайте добьем. Можете, в принципе, микрофон включить и так озвучить.
And if you guys have any questions, here, 1 sec. Let me see if I can figure this out. I'll put my Instagram handle in here if you want to reach out if something was confusing or if I spoke too fast and you didn't understand. Just reach out on my Instagram right there. Wait, actually, I typed it in wrong. 1 second. No.
Let's see.
There you go. Yeah, Deanna, I've definitely had burnout. When I've gotten there, it's because I was working way too hard, way more hard than I should have. You need to put your mental health above your grades, 100%. Because honestly, you shouldn't be putting so much stress on yourself that you're burning out. Just always know that if you're burning out, you've been working too hard.
Okay, so guys, please don't be afraid to ask any questions, even though you are not
Have you had any?
sure
Have you
about
had
that.
any? Have you got any difficulties in university when you've?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I heard you, it just cut out.
Айгена, можешь, пожалуйста, повторить вопрос? У Гуса были технические неполадки, он не совсем услышал.
Можешь на русском, в принципе.
Have you got any difficulties in university when you first applying?
So when I first applied, did I have any difficulties actually applying to the universities?
I guess so.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, you guys are experiencing a lot of this. You guys are probably experiencing this now. Common App sucks. Writing those essays sucks, especially when you're like me and you're applying to 15 schools and you have to write like 30 solid essays. It's not fun. But I mean, again, you just have to know that it's worth every second of it. Once you get those essays in, if it helps your chances of going to the dream school that you're going to remember for the rest of your life, it's definitely worth it.
Okay.
Okay, so also there is a question about the application that you use the most to prepare for the SAT.
It definitely, here, I'll put it in again. Khan Academy. I mean, 100%. That's the only thing I used. They have everything on there. Like I know a guy, one of my best friends, he's at Stanford right now. He got a 1590 and he just used Khan Academy. He didn't pay for anything. He didn't do a prep class. Obviously those things are going to help you just as much, but I think it's such a good source that's free for everybody and it will get the job done.
Okay. So, and the next question is about the podcast or articles. Do you listen to any podcast or maybe watch TED Talks? And if you have any list of favorite actors or channels or authors, could you please name them?
Yeah. So being like American frat student, Joe Rogan is definitely up there. He can be a complete idiot and I don't recommend it, but he has a few podcasts where he talks to some insanely smart, interesting people. So let me see if I can put, these are my favorite ones. I can forget the guy's last name. So these are all the Brian Cox and Brian Greene. So basically Joe Rogan, he's a comedian, not very smart. So he asks all the questions us and uneducated people ask, these quantum physicists that you could, like, anything you can think of asking, like, how do aliens exist? Like, are we all gonna blow up like spontaneously, like, stuff like that. And it's just 3 hours of that back and forth. Really, really cool to hear him talk. But again, you have to go with the scientist ones because when he has other comedians, then the average IQ in the room drops by like 60 points.
So,
and I also listen to a ton of TED Talks too, especially science related ones.
Okay, so what's the other question? Have your vision changed, like mindset, before and after applying to university?
Yeah, definitely. So I brought this up before. When I was going to school, when I first got to Cornell, I was going to be a chemistry major because I really enjoyed AP chemistry and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And literally 2 weeks into college chemistry, I just didn't want anything to do with it anymore. And so the good thing about going to school in America is I was able to make that change in 5 minutes. That's all it took. I just had to write to my advisor and get that to change. I know, especially in schools over in Europe, you have to know what you're majoring in before you even apply to college. And you're stuck with that, and it's super hard to change it. So that's one of the best benefits of American education, college education, is that you don't have to have like a super planned out path. You don't have to stick to anything. It's super easy to change whatever you're studying.
So, and the next question is about the study process. Whenever you don't understand the subject or the lecture, what do you do in these situations? And do you have someone like a teacher assistant who helps you to cover up all the topics that you didn't catch up with?
Yeah, so college biology is one of the, at Cornell, is probably one of the most brutal classes you can take, because all the pre-med students that want to be doctors that work super hard, they average that class to like a C+. The average of all these like super high performing students is a C+ in that class. And for med school, you need high B's or A's. Like you absolutely need those, otherwise you don't stand a chance. So people super stressed out. The lectures have 40 slides and they're 40-minute lectures, and those slides have a ton of information on it. It's impossible to keep it all down. You can't even mentally process half of what they're saying usually. So after each lecture, I know probably the basics, but I don't know the specifics. So to go back and learn that, my best strategy for studying for me is to make sure that I could explain it to somebody that doesn't know what's going on. Because if you can explain it to a 10-year-old, then you have a very deep understanding of the material, I feel like. So that's what I try to do. If there's something that I don't understand about a certain biology function, then I make sure I can explain it in depth to somebody.
Right. So 𝘼𝙂 is really interested in what you're playing. Call of Duty, Last of Us, CSGO, Fortnite, something.
So 𝘼𝙂 right now, because I'm in quarantine, I haven't played video games like heavily in a couple of years. I am playing a ton of Destiny 2 and Fall Guys right now. Those are my two games. I played a ton of GTA in the early stage of the COVID pandemic, and then I got kind of tired of it. Yeah, Fall Guys is crazy. I'm not very good at it, but that's why it's fun, because anybody can win it. So yeah.
What's your opinion on the Birds of Prey?
Birds of Prey, just like eagles, or the movie. I haven't seen it. The Harley Quinn movie. I assume you're talking about that. Yeah. I heard it was actually a lot better than people thought it was going to be. Because I remember after Suicide Squad, everybody thought it was going to be terrible.
So, I have a question. Like, do you have any bird courses other than wine tasting?
Yeah, so I've taken, I'm definitely forgetting one. I can't remember why I can't remember it. I've taken like 4 insane classes that I don't think you could take anywhere else, which is wine tasting, even though I'm underage, because in New York State, you can drink legally if it's for educational purposes. And I knew one of the TAs, and she'd always get me extra wine, which was great. So that was probably my, and then it got cut short. Like, of course, I was only there for half of the semester. On top of that, I took history of rock music, which was super, super cool, since the person we were working with was like on the, God, I can't remember the word. She was a junkie with like a ton of rock bands back in the 80s and 70s. So like she knew everybody that she was teaching, which is really cool. And then probably the most unique class I've taken is chimpanzee behavior, with a guy who spent 40 years in a jungle watching chimpanzees. Super, super cool. Like where else are you going to learn about that? Literally nowhere. So when you guys get to college, another thing I would tell you is have a class each semester where you're going to learn something you're never going to learn. And it's like your one opportunity to learn it. That's what I did last year. I took chimpanzee behavior in the fall, wine tasting in the spring. Like I'm never going to learn that stuff anywhere else. So I'm always trying to leave one like 3 credit slot open where I can take it for fun class.
Okay, so I think we should answer the last questions from the chat. I think we can
excuse me, can I ask a philosophy question?
Yep.
Yeah, go for it.
Is it real to change people's mindset, people's mentality, and does it make sense to try to change people's mindset?
That's a great question, actually. I think it's okay to do it, but you have to go about it the right way. In society today, especially over here in the US, people are usually very angry and confrontational. If somebody has a different opinion than them, they'll call them out on it. They'll try to cancel them, get super mad at them. But I think if you talk through it, you can come to the right solution a lot of the time. So for me personally, when I got to college, I had a completely different political opinion and outlook on life. And being at a school where there's people of every opinion, if you have these deep intellectual conversations about it, where you just listen to people talk, you don't try to interject and be like, oh, you're wrong, you stupid. You just listen to what they have to say and go over it in your head. If it makes sense, then expand on it. If not, then you don't have to change your mind, obviously. But I think you definitely can change people's minds. I think people can change.
All right, thank you. So you can now, here is short questions and you can answer shortly. You play on musical instrument?
Yeah, I've played piano since I was 6. I have it upstairs
Yeah,
right now.
great. Me also.
Yeah.
Then DC or Marvel?
This is another good one because I don't love either of them, but they're both
Why?
awesome. It's so close. Like, I know you have to choose a side, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Marvel just because the movies I think are better. But that's my only reason. I love both of them.
Okay, and you know Topless?
I do not.
It's a famous YouTuber, like from Russia, I guess. So he's
Oh,
just,
really?
like, making,
Yeah, my
yeah.
knowledge of Russian music is very, very low,
No,
unfortunately.
he's YouTuber.
Oh, he's a YouTuber.
And here we got a political question: Joe Biden or Trump?
Right. So this is a tough question because I think they are both terrible. Joe Biden's a good guy. I just don't think he's exactly mentally there altogether. There's definitely signs of dementia. But at the same time, I'm not even going to be controversial here. I really do not like Trump. I think he's a terrible person. I think he's done a lot of stupid shit. Excuse the language. I think he handled the coronavirus pandemic. I disliked him as a person before it, but after he just basically denied it and ended up killing more than 100,000 people, I think I definitely hate him right now. I want him out of office and I'm willing to vote for whoever. So even though I don't like Joe Biden, I don't agree with him on a lot of things. I'm not even sure if he's like mentally fit to be president. I just don't want Trump in office. So that's my opinion. I happen to be very, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I'm personally prefer Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I strongly disagreed with Bernie too. Well, not strongly. No, I shouldn't even say that. I didn't agree with Bernie, but he was like a really good person. He was a super cool guy. I think he would have been the best choice out of everybody personally, even if I didn't agree with him. Because my opinions towards voting is I want the best leader, not necessarily the person I agree with the most. So yeah, it could be somebody on either side as long as they can bring the people together and advance society, and that's what Bernie did.
Yeah.
All right. So I saw this question earlier, so I'll answer it. Go ahead.
Subject to memes. Like once
That's
again,
true.
I'm asking you.
I'm asking for your financial support. So Janelle, yes, we have a ton of international student exchange programs. We don't have one to Kazakhstan, but we have one to Russia each semester in St. Petersburg. Being a college athlete, if I were to go abroad, I'd have to miss a season, and I don't I don't think I want to do that. But there's definitely potential maybe in grad school or beyond where I'd spend a semester or two in another country. But yeah, so Cornell, I would say junior year, the third year of college, something more than half the student body probably goes abroad. They've got a really good system set up.
So I think we are done for today. Or guys, you have okay. One last question.
Yeah, Nicki Minaj or Cardi B? Oh God. Oh God. I mean, neither. Is that an option? I'm just gonna leave it at neither. Okay. Oh, I saw this question earlier. So how do you register the courses? Okay, so for Cornell, we're gonna disregard COVID because they're totally messing it up and they're changing the roster every day. In a traditional college year without coronavirus messing everything up, you usually the seniors will get the first choice of classes, then juniors, then sophomores, then freshmen. And that might sound really bad, but all the courses that you need for your major, like whether it be chemistry or like requirements to graduate, those always have enough spots for you to fill. Like you're never going to have a problem, even if you're the last one getting the classes. It really just makes a difference in stuff like wine tasting, where obviously all the seniors who are about to finish college want to take it. But so I would say register for courses. You'll get a link in your school email and you'll get the class roster probably 6 weeks before you start the semester at Cornell, and you can get your schedule and you can register for classes. It's kind of a mad dash since all of it opens up at 7 a.m. one day. But yeah, it's really not that bad of a problem. Especially at Cornell, you don't have any issue getting into the classes you want usually.
You have to be the fastest enroll button on the West to.
That is true, but if you don't get it, you're fine.
Yeah, so my course registration was crazy. Like my campus, it has like 16,000 students. So it was really hard just to get the right spots that you want. And we literally made up a ton of memes just basically out of course registration. Okay, so I think the last question is about the internships. Like, does your university welcome on like big companies for the internship weeks and stuff like that?
So I mean, yeah, like there's, especially the people doing econ majors, there's like kind of a lot of competition towards getting like the investment banking internships at like Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch and all the really big companies. And with software, with computer science, there's definitely like Google internships that work with the school as well. I think it's personally very toxic because it's so competitive that it just kind of ruins relationships if people don't get exactly what they want. And the internships themselves aren't even that good from what I've heard. You're literally working, you're way overworking and not getting paid anything, not even getting the experience that you really thought you're going to get out of it. But the school is great in giving you a ton of resources for pursuing internships. They have like a whole building just for internships and like early career moves. There's so many opportunities for that. They set you up really, really, really well if you want to use those resources.
Okay. So you like?
I think it's time to wrap up. So we would like to ask you like to give some sort of a feedback to us. Did you like the session? Well, what things you like? What do we have anything that we have to improve in? Anything that you would like to share?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought this was great. You guys asked a lot of good questions, both you and Izzat and Erjan, as well as the people in the chat. You guys asked all the right questions. I hope I was able to answer them. Again, if you have questions, I put my Instagram handle in there. Just please reach out to me. I'll help as best as I can. I really appreciate you letting me talk. I hope I tried to make some sort of difference in your perspective on American education. And yeah, I had a great time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you so much to everyone who joined to our Zoom session today. So before we end this conversation, I'd like to say that we're going to make more videos and more Zoom sessions like this with different university representatives, different country representatives, and we are in the process of having a large Zoom show here, basically related and dedicated to helping CIS citizens and students from CIS countries to know more about college applications and how to get into different countries and how to study there. And so thank you so much, Gus, for being our first guest here and for answering the questions related to American college application process.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Спасибо, товарищи. Здравствует Советский Союз.
Спасибо. Ребята, можно микрофон включить, сказать спасибо.
Served to the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much
So,
again.
yeah.
It was
thank
a
you.
great pleasure to have you today.
It was great to be
Thank you
here.
so much,
Glad I could
guys.
help out. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah, bye.